Hello and good afternoon. This is Applied Digital Studies 2, or rather a live stream for Applied Digital Studies 2, which is Section 2 of Applied Digital Studies, not Part 2, a class at the University of Mary Washington. So if you are one of my students and watching, which is probably everybody that's watching is one of my students, if you could just don't forget to say hello either in the Twitch chat or the Discord chat so I know who's out there. I don't actually have my thing pulled up where I can see how many viewers I have, but I hope I have some so that I am not just talking to myself. So this is a day of class where I'm going to be lecturing. Obviously this is Twitch, so I'm going to be lecturing and demonstrating some things. Specifically, I'm going to be talking about and demonstrating how to do some basic stuff with building a web page, which is your project this week if you're a student in my class. So a couple of kind of reminders and things just to help kind of reorient us a little bit. This is a week of class where we're working on the idea of connections as a theme, and I did ask you all, if you're a student, to look at that thing about smart homes and connected technology. So there were two things: the Soft Rains by There Will Come Soft Rains by Ray Bradbury, and I'm blanking on the title of the story, but by Nadedi Okorafor, and we're going to talk about those on Wednesday, I think. So today I'm going to actually spend some time demoing some things because I think it'll work a little bit better this way. I can put some things on screen and then talk you through it, and then on Wednesday we can have a conversation about those other things where I think that'll make a little bit more sense. So hopefully that'll help. Just to reorient you a little bit to a couple things, I want you to try to finish this retro homepage by Friday, and there is an assignment associated with that. Let me show you that page. And then your first progress report for the big project is actually due on Monday. I decided to move that. It was originally set to be due today, but I decided to move that back to give me a little bit more time to give you all some feedback on your proposals. I've gotten through quite a few of those, but I'm still working on them, and I will be continuing to work on those tonight. Hopefully I can get them back to you. In some cases, I am finding it helpful in those feedback videos that I'm creating to request you to request certain things. So I'm asking you, by the time you get to your first progress report, make sure you FY whatever it is, XYZ. And there might be some more of those kinds of recommendations forthcoming, so I want to continue to do those and hopefully get that to you in time that you can respond to those things by your first progress report. There only have been a couple where I've needed to really say, you might need to rethink this. So I want to make sure I give that I do have that chance. I think I've touched base with almost everyone anyway, just to get a sense of what your direction is. But there's a few that I was a little bit surprised by the proposal because I hadn't heard about it yet. So usually pleasantly surprised, but I want to make sure that I help you if I see something I'm a little concerned about. So yeah, I'm not trying to worry anybody. I just want to make sure that I want you to hear that there will be some suggestions in some of these, and I want you to try to respond to that. But if you haven't heard from me yet, don't assume that there's anything wrong. Just go ahead and start working on it, or keep working on it if you've been working on it. Okay, so what we're doing, this is node 3, calling it connections, and at the end of this node, which is this Friday, I would like for you to submit something which would be a reflection on what we covered this node, during this node, especially the retro homepage and just the old different ways that we've connected, right? Different ways that we've understood people connecting through time using the web and using the internet. And your contribution to this is going to be this retro homepage that you create and that you submit to our class WebRing. Now this is a link that I should probably just take off for now because in fact the WebRing software is broken. So let me just go ahead and delete this, and let me just trust me that I will fix this. I actually, what I did to make this WebRing software is I just found like an old WebRing software, like a PHP script, and from the year 2000, and I, just put it up on my website. So the issue with that, it turns out, is that PHP, which is the underlying language this is using, has changed quite a bit since the year 2000. So 20 years in software time is quite a lot, and it basically didn't work anymore. So I had to rewrite a bunch of it to get it to work at all, and it still just kind of barely works. So you can't really trust it yet, but I will work on this and give you something. All you have to do ultimately is submit the URL to your retro homepage right here, and then it'll get added to the list. But I can at least show you the list of sites that are already part of this WebRing. Hopefully you recall WebRings. WebRings are something that you hopefully came across in looking through some of the old GeoCities websites, like on oocities.org if you remember. And what you see here, these are home pages that have already been submitted to this WebRing. These come from previous classes, previous DGSD 395 classes, and you can see a few of them here. So I can just show you a couple. So this is a web page about pop punk, and you know, really pretty much looking at and kind of yeah. So this is Erin did this website, and what she did is she kind of pretended that she went back in time to the 90s, and so she's talking about nearing the end of the 20th century and the kinds of things that she was listening to at that point, or kind of pretending that it's the late 90s. You can decide whether or not you want to pretend that it's the 90s still, or you just want to make a retro style homepage about something contemporary. That'd be fine too. But this is what Erin wanted to make a website about. And if you remember looking through GeoCities sites, a lot of them look like this. Like they have the same visual look, or they have the same kind of topic where it's just like, here's my website about something that I like a lot, and I want you to know what I like a lot. And so you can see several examples of those. Let me find a couple more. So here's Retro Book Rex. This is Alex's page, and she went with lots of Comic Sans in order to make it look old. Even the blinking GIF here, which is actually kind of a cute little GIF, and then this marquee text that scrolls left and right. I want you to feel like embrace the ugliness, basically. Like, don't feel worried about making your site look good. Just make it work, and embrace the nostalgia of kind of looking back at an older era in web design when things moved that really shouldn't move, when things blinked that really shouldn't blink. Feel free to embrace that look for things. Let's see, I think this one, I'm trying to remember some of these. Oh yeah, so this is a spooky Halloween website. You can see some spooky GIFs there going on. Let's see, I don't remember this one. Yeah, there you go. So the classic 90s thing. Oh yeah, this one has music and a GIF, of course. So lots of silly things, and that's fine. I want you to embrace the silliness and come up with something kind of ridiculous and old-fashioned, and put that together and have it ready to be shared by this Friday. Okay, so that's what we're doing this week. If you have any questions about this, by the way, this is you can ask. I mean, either Twitch or Discord are up right now. I don't have YouTube chat up, but if you are watching on YouTube, you can, of course, hopefully, if you're watching on YouTube, you can use the Discord if you have any questions while I'm talking. Okay, so wait, that's something else. All right, so what I thought I would do today with the stream is take you through the different things that you need to know to build a basic web page. And if we have time, and if you have specific requests for things you would like for me to demonstrate, I can try to focus on those things. But I want to redo some of the things I did on Friday over the Zoom, because by putting them here in this video, you'll see it again. That's sometimes helpful to see things twice. But also this will be a more accessible and easy to find video of me demonstrating these things. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'll move kind of quickly through this because if you were in the Zoom on Friday, then you've already seen this, but also because this being a video means you can watch it later. So I'm not too worried about kind of going slowly enough. All right, so I am logging into my Reclaim Hosting dashboard. It's a little different than the UMW Domains dashboard, but not that different. Like they both use Cpanel. They both are actually hosted the same way, but they have a slightly different interface. But this part should look pretty much the same. There's a couple buttons I have that you don't have, but not many, and none of the buttons I'm going to be using. Right? So this is Cpanel. This is the dashboard of your domain, or in this case, my hosting account, which I have lots of domains on this particular hosting account. In either case, it doesn't really matter. The subdomains is what you're interested in for this project. I would like for you to create a subdomain. So you go down here to subdomains. It might be over here on the right. It might be somewhere else, but it's going to be called subdomains. And what this is a web page, or like a screen, I guess, within the Cpanel application that lets you manage the subdomains on your account. So I've got a ton of things already here, as you can see. Let me just make something. Now, one of the things I want to do as I build a page here is I want to make this actually pretend like it actually has a topic. So I would love for a topic suggestion from the audience. Is anyone out there watching? If anyone's out there watching and you have an idea for a website I can make right now, then let me know. What should I make this website about? I did one about donuts in the last section, so I need another topic, something that's not donuts, but that would be worth making an old-fashioned website about. Give me a topic, somebody. And I want a topic so that I can name my subdomain after whatever the topic is. So I need a suggestion. Nothing? Come on, something, anything, random. Okay, see if a couple of people typing finally. Ice cream. Ice cream is good. Favorite foods? Well, you said ice cream already, so we can go with ice cream. Ryan's still typing, but I'll go with ice cream. All right, cool. So Ryan just supports what everyone else said. Good. We'll go with ice cream. So ice cream. Or you know what? I'll just be. I could be a little punny with this. I could go ice cream. Subdomains can be letters, numbers, and hyphens, and nothing else. No punctuation marks. So you can't really. It's hard to make a word out of this, but we'll just go with ice cream, like one word, all lowercase. That's how I usually do subdomains. You could do a hyphen, I suppose, but I like just the thing by itself. It's pretty easy to read. So I'll go ahead and hit the create button, and that's going to make icecream.zachwhalen.net, and it should just take a few seconds. And now it should be on this list. This list is showing all of my subdomains, so let me make this longer so I can actually see it, and there it is. This is what it should look like, icecream.zachwhalen.net, and all this should be correct. So not redirected, and the document root is filled in automatically, and it should just be whatever it says it should be. Just let the software decide what it should be. All right, now I could get to the file manager from here, actually. I could click on it, but I'm going to go in the other way just because that's more commonly what you'd be doing from the main cPanel page. And right here, I'm looking for the file manager. File manager is going to let me access the files and folders of my web server, and just like I can access the files and folders on my computer. And here we are. I need to find the folder that just got created to contain the documents of the subdomain I just created, and I can see it here on the left, icecream.zachwhalen.net, and there it is, an empty directory. It's empty. It has this well-known folder. You might have a CGI bin folder. You might have some error, some files that say things like 400 error.html and stuff like that. It doesn't matter. Whatever's in there, it doesn't matter. You could delete it all if you don't want it for whatever reason, but you probably have nothing, or at least you have nothing useful. And we're going to be changing that by adding some things into it pretty soon. So I'm opening this tab so I can browse to my subdomain. And this is what the subdomain looks like right now. If I'll go ahead and paste it in the chat in Discord. Here's what I'm working on. And you should see the same thing I see here. This is the public-facing version of my subdomain. Again, there's nothing on it. Index here means list, right? So like an index in a book is the list of the contents of the topics in the book. This is a list of the contents of this directory, which is 0. The dot folder here, the dot well-known, that's a hidden folder, so it's not going to show up in the public anyway. But there's nothing in it, so I don't even know what that is, honestly. So doesn't matter. So this is all I need for now. Well, it's not all I need for now, but it's the place that I can start creating the things I do need. So I would like to create an HTML file, which I will do by clicking the plus file button up here on the left, plus file, and I will make it, I'll just call it homepage, or I'll call it my homepage. I will be renaming this file later, but for now I'm going to make it something generic like this. I recommend doing the same. And you'll see it show up this way and this way, so you can confirm that it actually exists. There we go. So now this is still a list of the contents of this folder, but now one of these is a file name, the name that I just created, my homepage.html, and if I click on the link, the name of the file, it's actually a link to the location of this file, which is at icecream.zachwhalen.net/myhomepage.html, and that's what it is. Now there's nothing here because this is a blank file I just created, but I can add things to it, and I should start seeing that content very soon. Now remember, when you edit these files, I really want you to use the edit button and not the HTML editor. That's different. It's a WYSIWYG editor. I don't think it's very good, so I really recommend the edit button. That's going to give you the kind of control that you'll need in order to be successful with this. So You can click the edit button here when that file is selected, or you can right click on it and select edit from the menu that pops up, and it shows up like this. So this is a text editor. It lets me write code in the form of plain text. And I did this the other day, so I'm just kind of redoing what I did before, but I can kind of talk through it as I do. Just remember a couple basic things about HTML. It has a tag structure, and tags have two parts usually, an opening part, like in this case is the opening part that's on line 2, and then a closing part, which in this case is on line 5. Doesn't matter what line it's on, I'm just explaining what you see here. And they open and close, and that's all good. So I also have a couple more tags I'm going to add here before I start adding much more structure. There's the head, opening and closing head, and then there's the, we're going to do a body tag, opening and closing body. HTML is the, I guess, parent of everything, and then HTML and body, try to get those lined up. HTML contains everything, and then head and body are siblings. Both of these are direct children of HTML, and they should exist like this. You should have at least one, you should have exactly one opening and closing head, and then exactly one opening and closing body. Everything that we want to see on the page should appear here between the body tags, and everything that goes in the, like the meta information about the page should appear here between the head tags, the opening and closing head. The meta information includes things like the title of the page, I scream, and you'll see that that doesn't actually appear in the visual part, but it does appear somewhere, which is up here in the tab title. That's not really that visible right now because I have so many tabs open, but it is there, and it's sometimes useful if you end up with a bunch of tabs. Okay, so I do want to add some content down here that will appear, and you'll remember the one I did add the other day was just the H1 tag, and H1 is the top level header, usually the title of the page, and the most important thing you'll see on the page. So here we are. This is where I got to on Friday pretty much. I think, yeah, pretty much here, maybe a little bit more. But I have lots more I want to talk about. So I would like, if you have any requests, any specific thing you would like for me to demonstrate, something you've seen on a web page or that you already have in mind for your web design, let me know and I can try to demonstrate it here. Otherwise, I'll just go through some standard stuff, but you know, I certainly can take requests. All right, so see the typing. All right, okay, so yeah, that's definitely one of the things I plan to add. So I will do that. Let me first add a couple of sentences here. This is a web page all about ice cream. The greatest substance on earth. I don't know why I call it substance and not food. But this is a paragraph of text. You can see it's two sentences, but really the P is what tells me that this is a paragraph. P stands for paragraph, and it opens and closes, and that's all. That's what we got to do there. So let me save that and show you what it looks like on here. So yeah, I mean, very straightforward still. This is just using the Times New Roman font, which is the default. We're not going to deal with or get into fonts today, but that's, well, we might, but that's probably a bit much if I get to some other things. So that's the paragraph. Now, a paragraph can be as long as or as short as you want, but it's a block level element, which means it actually renders it as a rectangle with whatever contents are in it. So let's add, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and write a whole actual thing about ice cream. Let me just copy and paste this sentence a few times to make this paragraph longer so you can see what I mean. I'll just copy and paste a bunch of times. As long as that P is at the end of it, this will all appear as a single paragraph. Also, something else that'll happen is as long as this is a single P, so it opens here and it closes here. This is actually all the same line. You can see this is actually all line 8. Well, what happens if I just go in here and I add some room, right? You might think, well, this is going to make it look like 2 paragraphs because of all this room here, but in fact, that is not what's going to happen. Let me show you what happens. See that? Nothing happened. That's because HTML collapses whitespace. So HTML does not care about whitespace. You might, though. You might find it easier to read if you keep things organized, but that's just something that HTML does not care about. Well, I say HTML, but technically what the thing that does the caring here is not HTML, but the web browser. I'm using Chrome for this demo. I really recommend you use Chrome or Firefox for this project. If you're using Safari or Microsoft Edge, there are a couple things that are going to be harder. So I really recommend using these tools. You may not even see why it may not even become an issue, but it might, and so I really recommend it. Okay, so if I do want to make these two paragraphs, I just have to add additional paragraph tags. But they do have to close and open in the right order. If they end up overlapping, that can get weird. Like if I opened this one before closing this one, it would actually just make 3 paragraphs essentially. But this is what it needs to do. So it opens and closes. It doesn't matter what lines they're on, but just visually, I kind of like to keep things at least kind of neat, and that was going to make 2 paragraphs. So there we go. All right, as I say, your comment on Twitch, that's fine, but of course it'll be recorded on Zoom, so you can check that out if you need to. Okay, so let's do something here. Aziza has requested pictures, which I can definitely do. In fact, I'm going to make a list. I'm going to make a list of the things that I can talk about on this demo. So a list is a HTML element. In fact, it's a group of elements that work together. There's an opening UL and a closing UL, and these are going to contain each item in the list, which is indicated, each of these are indicated individually by LI tags. So let me add this here, how to add pictures. That is something I can talk about. Let me add how to add links and anything else that I should add and talk about on my demo today. Oops, that's not what I meant to type. It's funny that the code editor went ahead and auto-completed that anyway. Let's say, what else can I do? Pictures, links, I mean, those are big, those are important. I don't know, I could do what I did last time. This was requested in the last section. I can show how to insert a YouTube video. Okay, so these are items in a list. Let me show you what this looks like. Again, you notice what I'm doing, by the way. I hit save, and then I always go back here and hit refresh to see what it looks like. And these now show up as bulleted items in a list. How to add pictures, how to add links, how to insert a YouTube video. Let me make this look even better by adding a subheading. I'm going to say, I'll call this today's agenda. And I'm calling this a H2, which means second order heading. Doesn't mean the second in order, but the second in value, right? The second level. In general, you would only have one H1 tag, but I will have multiple H2s. Let me show you what that might look like. Today's agenda is there, and then let's say if I wanted to make a list for what's coming up on Wednesday, I could do Wednesday's agenda as another H2, and I could do another list there. So let's say Wednesday will talk about smart houses. We'll demo how to add background. Really we'll just do how to add a style sheet. We'll do that on Wednesday, and then how to change the font. So these will be things that we can do on Wednesday, let's say. I might get to a couple of these now. I did not mean to click on that. But these are 2 H2s and then 2 lists here. Now let's say we want to make this list a little fancier. In fact, we're not just going to do these in a random order. We're going to do these in a specific order. Helpfully, there is an easy way to change the type of list that we have here. I called this a UL to begin with, and U stands for unordered. So there's another kind of list called an ordered list, and I can just change those U's to O's, like so, and that's going to change this to an ordered list, and an ordered list is different in that it has numbers. So at least that's the default. You can actually change the ordinals, but in this case it's 1, 2, 3, and that's fine. So I don't need to know as I'm typing it how many items are on my list, and if I change them around, it doesn't matter. It just automatically does the 1, 2, and 3 for whatever order they appear in the code. So you don't have to know how many you have when you're creating the list. You just start writing, and then the web browser figures out how many there are and then generates the numbers for them. All right, so that was weird. But okay, there we are. Okay, so let's add pictures. So let's find a picture, first of all, that we can add. So pictures are, on the web, are going to be one of 3 different image file types: GIFs, images, or PNGs. If you come across other image types like BMP or or PIX is another one I've seen, or TIFF. They probably are not going to work. So you want to just focus on getting, one of these. Oh, that's some nice looking ice cream. That's kind of different. Okay. There's Agnes Marshall, the queen of ice cream. All right, cool. So let's take a look at this. So this is an image I can use on my webpage, and I say can for two reasons. Technically, I'm capable of using it because I know how to do it, but I'm also allowed to use this image because this is an image that exists in the public domain, which means it's free of copyright. No one is going to be able to assert copyright about this particular image. That's important. So I'm going to download this. Yeah, so here it is. So it took me a second. I need to get the actual URL for the image. And here it is, upload.wikimedia.org/Wikipedia. The nice thing about wikimedia.org is that you can find images here that have different free-to-use licenses on them. So they can have public domain, or they could have a Creative Commons license that allows you to use it. And you can find out the information about these here, and you can act accordingly. Just because you find an image on Google, like if I went to Google and I just said ice cream, all of these images are under copyright, except for, well, this one, because I just saw it earlier. But all of the rest of these, I can tell you, are probably under copyright, which means I am not allowed to use them without breaking the law. So let me show you. This image is actually, I am allowed to use, I'm pretty sure. Let me see. I can click on it, and this tells me that Nicholas Etlin created this and then released it into the, released it with a Creative Commons license, and the nature of this license says that, yes, you can use it as long as you include my name in the byline. So, okay, so we could use this image if we wanted to, but I like this other image better. But all these other ones, these are, images created by professional photographers probably, and they have a right to the copyright of their work, and you're not allowed to use it. Just the fact that you found it on, hey, there's Carl's. Just the fact that you found it on, here's Carl's again. The fact that you found it on YouTube means, on Google means nothing as far as its legalness, right? In fact, you can just you should assume that any image you find on a Google image search is not allowed in your webpage. Okay, so that's, we can say more about that if you'd like, but just let me show you the technical process of this here. This is Agnes, was it Agnes Marshall, I think? So yeah, so I'm gonna save this image. I don't know if you can see when I right click if that gets, yeah, it looks like OBS isn't picking up my context menu, but I just have save image as, or I could do Control S as well. And it's going to save this file, agnesbmarshall.jpg, to my computer. You can see down here where it just popped up kind of right next to me. That's the file that I just downloaded onto my computer. And now I'm going to upload it into the subdomain folder where I'm working on this webpage. And I'm doing this for a particular reason, which you'll see. So, oh yes, let me show you again. The upload button, it's up here near the top, sometimes hard to see. And I get a little lost in this sometimes because there's a group of things down here that you can use, and then there's a group of things up here that you can use, and sometimes it's hard to remember which is which and which one contains the thing that you're looking for. But let me find Agnes here. There she is. And now this is, it just takes a second and it's uploaded, and then this link takes me back to my subdomains folder. And you can see now I have this subdomain folder with agnesbmarshall.jpg and my homepage.html. This is my web page as I've been viewing it and working on it, but I haven't done anything yet, so I can't see the image here yet. I can go just to the top level of the subdomain though, and I can see that it includes my homepage.html and now agnesbmarshall.jpg. And clicking on that shows me that this image is now on my subdomain. You can see it here because it's icecream.zachwayland.net/agnesbmarshall.jpg. So this is the URL for this image. I could copy and paste this URL and send it to you. I'll do that now, just to kind of demonstrate how this works. That's a publicly hosted image, and it should be fine to use in my webpage, both legally and technically. Let me show you how to do that. So this is, let me say, I'll put it down here. All right, so I've shown you some tags so far. These are all block tags so far. P is a block, H2 is a block, OL is a block, LI is an inline block, doesn't matter. But the an image tag is a little different, and it's going to have a couple different components to it. So most of these tags, if you look at like the H2 on line 12 here, that has the opening part, H2, and then the closing part, H2. The closing part is indicated by the /, and that's important. If you don't have the / there, then it will think of it as another opening H2, and it'll continue to make everything after that part of the same H2, and that could be confusing. But it opens and closes, and that's it. Wish this whole thing up at the top wasn't. Well, anyway, I mean, I wanted to zoom in, but this is taking up a lot of real estate up at the top here. I wonder if I could just. No, that's going to close the file. I wonder if I could just well, I could, never mind. I could delete it, but I don't want to do that now. I'll just live with it. So let me put my image tag down here, right next to me, right here on line 29. So an image tag is going to have the same /, but only an opening part. And let me show you what that means. It looks a little different. This is one of the few that works this way. So it actually closes itself off. So it's a single tag that closes itself. And the information that creates this actual image, puts a place for this image on my web page, is going to be conveyed in a series of attributes. Attributes are name and value pairs that appear inside the opening part of a tag, or in this case, just the main part of the tag, because there is no closing part. Okay, so I'm moving, again, kind of quickly through this just because I know it's being recorded. If you do have questions or want me to show you some part of this again, you can certainly ask. And I'd be happy to try to show you that. But I'm going to keep moving so I can show you several of these things. So the image tag, again, like I said, it has a series of attributes, and attributes always have a syntax that looks like this. This is not an actual syntax, but let me show you what it looks like. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to do the real thing. I don't need to do a placeholder. So in this case, the attribute that loads the image is called SRC, which stands for source. Kind of like image is abbreviated to IMG instead of the full word image. And then SRC is the attribute. Attributes are given as a name, an equal sign, and then in quote marks the value that you want to assign to that attribute. It's kind of like when we're writing Python and we assign variables. It's kind of like that here, except in this case the names already exist. You just have to say what the name, what value is associated with this particular attribute. So it's image and then source, and then in this case the source is going to be the URL for that image that I just shared in Discord. So it's icecream.zachwayland.net/agnesbmarshall.jpg. So this will work actually if I do it like this, but I'm actually going to abbreviate this because I don't need all of this. One nice shortcut is that the path to an image can be absolute or relative. And that, I don't know if those terms make sense, maybe not, but this is an absolute path, which means it'll work no matter the context. Like you can click on it from Discord and it'll work, but a relative link will work as well in a particular context. So in this case, this URL for this image will work because this file is in the same directory. So I don't need to give it the full path. I can just give it this incomplete relative path that says this is the same file. This is the file that's in the same directory that I'm in right now. And it's just called agnesbmarshall.jpg. The only thing you have to do is to make sure that you've spelled the file name correctly. So if you upload a file like this, a JPEG file, to your subdomains folder, you can use it in the source attribute of an image tag as long as you spell it exactly the same. So I'll show you what happens if you get it wrong, but first of all, let me make it work and see how it works, make sure it works, right? So, oh yeah, that's Agnes. I'm kind of curious about Agnes now that I keep seeing her. So there she is, and that page, this image appeared here. Now I'm not done. It works, but I'm actually not done. There are a couple more things, actually 3 more things I need to add to this image tag, but that's not terrible. That actually works okay. I wanted to get the dimensions of this image here. Okay, so what I've pulled up here, by the way, this is really useful. This is the elements inspector, and this lets you peek at how Chrome is interpreting your web page. So I got to this by just you probably didn't see the context menu. When I right-click the image, I have an option called Inspect in my menu that pops up, and that opens this thing, which is called an element inspector. And this is a set of developer tools that are built into Chrome. And this is one of the things that I was saying is really helpful about Chrome. It actually exists in Safari as well, but this is Chrome where I'm using it now. Firefox also has it. It works pretty well. I think Microsoft Edge might have it too. I don't know, but this one is what I'm using now. And what this does, this shows you HTML, and this is pretty close to what I wrote, but there's an important distinction, which is that I know what I wrote. It's here. But this is how Chrome interpreted what I wrote. And thankfully, this is pretty close to what I wrote. You know, there's a couple of slight differences, but pretty much the same here. But if I had made a typo, Chrome is going to do certain things to make sense of my website and render it that would require transforming different parts of it. And if that happens and something looks weird, you can learn about it by looking in the element inspector to see what Chrome thought you were trying to do, basically. But in this case, yeah, all I was trying to do here is look at the information about this image so I can see that it's 529 by 815 pixels. That's kind of a lot, but I'll kind of go with that for now. So 529 by 815. I wanted to know those dimensions because in the image tag, I need to add a couple of things here. What was it, 529 by 815. Oops. There we go. So that's helpful as the page is loading, and what happens if you don't do that is you probably experience, I get experiences a lot on my phone, but you know, if you're ever like loading a web page and it's like jumping around as it loads, that's because whoever coded that page didn't add width and height attributes. So it's loading that media and then adjusting for whatever size the media happens to be as it loads. So if the media doesn't load all at once, then as it loads, the page will jump around as it figures out how to make room for it. But if you go ahead and say, this is how much room I need for this image tag, it'll make that room even before the image has fully loaded, which is useful if you're making something that has really large images or a bunch of images, or that you expect people to look at over mobile. So that's what I did there. You can also use these width and height attributes to actually change the visual size of it. So this is 529 by 815 now, but let me see what happens if we make the width, I don't know, 100, but keep the height the same. Yeah, so I mean, it doesn't look very good, but that did what I expected it would do, which is that it shrunk the image this way, but not this way. So it stayed this way and it just kind of squeezed it. But I don't actually want that. I want to keep that at 529. You could, of course, do the same thing by changing the height. You know, or you could, actually do the math and figure out what you need to do to make them the same aspect ratio as they were originally, and it'll appear that way. You can also do scaling proportionally if you use CSS, like say you can make it 120% or something like that, but we're not going to deal with that right now. Okay, so that's width and height, and the other thing that we need is an alt attribute. So alt stands for alternate, I guess. And this is what's going to show up in case my image doesn't load. And this is important because sometimes your image might not load. There might be all kinds of things wrong with what you do. There's lots of things that are easy mistakes to make. Your image might not load. If you have a bunch of images, having the alt attribute here would help remind you which image was supposed to be there, or in case someone accesses your web page and they can't actually see because they have a impairment or a disability, they'll see the alt text instead, or they will hear the alt text instead. And that will help them understand what the image is supposed to be. I'll just say, who is this? Is this the woodcut or is this a portrait? I guess it's a portrait, right? So I'll call this where's my code? There it is. A graphite portrait of Agnes B. Marshall, the Queen of Ice Cream. I don't know much about her, but I think, that might be good enough, or I might add a couple of more lines if I actually had some information about her that was important for people to know. So that's going to show up. Let me show you what happens when you make an error. So in terms of file extensions, JPG and JPEG are both valid as far as indicating that an image is a JPEG, but it has to be the same. So the image that I uploaded here is named .jpg. So if in my code I refer to it as JPEG, guess what's going to happen? Bonk. It's not going to work. So what happens is you'll see this broken image icon, and you'll see a graphite portrait of Agnes B. Marshall. So you'll see the alt text that I wrote instead of the actual image, right? So that's what's happening there. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. I want to put that back, but yeah, the point is that it has to be exactly the same. HTML is a forgiving language, but it's not a psychic. It can't guess what you meant to write if you get the file name wrong. So make sure you get that right. And that is a very common mistake to make, especially with JPEG, because you can spell it 2 different ways, and you might see one or the other. All right, so I think that covers the basics for images. Let me cross that off my list with another tag. Now this is an inline tag called strike, and you'll see that it does what the name says, which is strikes through it, because I've covered that already. Okay, so let me show you next how to, I see Amelia typing, maybe she has a question, but I am planning to next show you how to insert a YouTube video or how to add links. But I think links are probably more valuable. But YouTube video is very quick, so let me show you that. This is the YouTube video. This is the video I made. So Amelia, I can't help you with Safari. You should really be using Chrome. But if in fact the issue is Safari, it may not be though. It's kind of hard for me to troubleshoot without seeing your computer screen, basically. But it should work in Safari. Is what I should say. Actually, maybe if you could share the URL to your subdomain, then I can see if it actually uploaded or not, and then maybe go from there. But that's kind of all I can see. We might have to troubleshoot with screen share on Zoom on Wednesday or just in a conference sometime. But yeah, share the URL if you can. Let me show you how to do a YouTube video while you're doing that. So this is a YouTube video. I made this video. It's the song Friday by Rebecca Black, and every time she says Friday, it slows down. I think it's pretty funny, but it's certainly silly. It is exactly what it says, right? Let's see. It gets slower and slower. Yeah, I think it's funny. Okay, well, anyway, let's say I want to share this. You can click share, and then you get the embed, and then sorry, I went pretty quick there. So you hit share, and then you hit the embed option. There's different things that'll give you links to it, but if you hit embed, it actually just gives you the source code that you need. So this is just HTML. Copy, and then here we are. There it is. So you just have to pick copy and paste. Like, there's nothing fancy about it. You don't have to change it, but this is HTML, so you could change it if you wanted to. So there's Rebecca. Let's say we want to make it slower. Not slower, make it smaller. It's slow enough as it is. We could change the dimensions here. And it's now here, but it's tiny. Okay, let's see what we've got here. Okay, so a couple of things, Amelia. You really need to make sure that this is named HTML. So the file actually needs to be named HTML. You can't just call it homepage. It actually has to have the file extension on it. But let me see. This is your subdomain, right? So mollysenior33.jpg, I believe, is the image that you want to include there, right? So I think that's your profile picture. So that makes sense. So the image is uploaded. I think the question is getting it into the web page, right? So just trying to clarify the terminology. But again, you really need to rename this homepage. I'll show you how to rename it. You don't have to re-upload something, but you can actually just do it in the file manager. So just like I have here, mine, you just click once on it, and then it pops up with an editable thing, right? Just make sure it's engine.html, but it still should actually work. Let's see. I can take a look at your source code. Okay, so you've got a typo there, a couple typos possibly, but if this is what you wrote, I don't know if you can see this very well, but you spelled it ing instead of img, so that's going to be one thing. The source attribute should be fine, although you don't need the fully justified URL. You also don't need the www on it. It's redundant, but it looks like it actually works, but you don't need that at least. So I would just say mollysenior33.jpg, like delete everything. I would say delete everything up to there, just for simplicity. And I don't know if this is exactly what it looks like, because it might be like my browser was interpreting it a little bit, but so definitely change that to image, img, not in, and then make sure you put a quote mark at the beginning of the alt attribute right here. So alt equals, and then the quote mark should go right here just before a portrait of myself. And fixing that will probably fix it to make it work. Also, you've got too many body tags and you misspelled title. So you want to make sure you get these right? And also you need to close your tags. You aren't closing the HTML tag that needs to have a forward slash in front of it, right? Just like you have the body here, opening and closing, but you need to make sure every tag has a opening part, which is H1, and then a closing part, and the closing part has to have the forward slash in it, or else you've actually opened two H1 tags. Think of them like left and right parentheses, like one opens, one closes. You gotta have both. Okay, so quite a few typos in here. So you need to, typos, when you write a document that people are going to read, often your word processor will fix the typos for you, or you can just people still understand what you meant. Code often won't be able to understand what you meant. So make sure you get that right. Easy mistakes to make, and also once you get in the habit of doing it, it goes pretty naturally. So I've been doing this for years, so of course it's easy for me. So yeah, take a look at those things, but let's at least get that image working. Let me show you all how to do links so I can cross that item off, and then Amelia, you can help. It looks like you're typing again if you want to have some more, if you want me to troubleshoot again or take a look at a new version of it. Okay, so yeah, right, so spelling is certainly a challenge in some cases. Let me see. Let me try this, Molly. So I call you Amelia, but I call this Molly. So maybe you prefer Molly. Let me show you let me take your code and show you what you need to fix about it. Let me copy your code, and then I'll show you what to do. All right. So I'm just putting that on my clipboard here, and this is again kind of easier to do if we were sharing screens, but I could guide you to the point that you needed to fix. But this will hopefully do something. Plus file. All right. So I'm going to make a new file. I'll just call it, again, if you don't mind, I guess I'll call you Molly, right? I don't know. I didn't know that you preferred Molly. So let's call it Molly page.html. And, okay, thanks. All right, so I just made a new page here. I'm going to edit it. And then I've got your code on my clipboard, so I'll paste it. And you can see all the X's, by the way, these red X's, they indicate that this code editor is hey, something's wrong. So that also gives us a guide for what to fix. All right, so I think that just added that line. So we're good so far, but hopefully you can see this okay. This is the opening HTML tag, and you can tell that because it's literally just the word HTML and then two angle brackets around it. And then this down here at the bottom, I'm kind of blocking it, but that right there, it needs, not the microphone, that right there needs to be the closing HTML tag, which is indicated by putting a forward slash at the beginning of the name of it. And that's a closing tag now. Before it's not. If you just leave it like that, that's another opening HTML tag. So you're essentially opening your document at the end again, which doesn't make sense. Right? So you want to close it. Opening and closing every time. You've got that right for head. So head opens here, closes here. That's the right way to do it. Title opens and closes. You've got some extra T's there, but those are easy to fix. But yeah, this is all good so far, right? This is correct. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me fix a couple more things. You have too many bodies. You just need one opening and one closing, but you've got opening, closing, opening, basically. In fact, we don't need either of these, so I'm going to get rid of these here. Body should close just before HTML closes. So there's nothing after body, and it is the last thing before. But it needs to be closing again, so you do the front slash that way, the forward slash that way. Okay. And hopefully by now you see the H1 needs to close as well. And the P looks good. The image tag looks good now. The name of the tag looks good with IMG. Let me just make a couple of things. What I was saying about the quote marks is this needs to go, whoops, didn't mean to delete both of those. It needs to go here. And then for this one, you don't need the HTTP. HTTP means that's if you're using it as an absolute URL. If you're doing a relative URL, you can just name it like that. Okay. So this image won't actually work when I show it on my subdomain because your image is on your subdomain and not on mine. But this code now looks correct. I think I've corrected everything. So I'm going to send this back to you in Discord. And it should work. So like I want you to have some code that works, and then you can sort of tweak that working code, right? Like start with something that works and then build on top of that, basically. So here's this. This should work now, and I'm going to put it in here as a block of code. So there you go. So you should be able to copy and paste that from Discord into your text editor and see how that works. But just kind of looking at it again, I think it's good now. Okay, good. So it is 3:40 when we are done with class, but I do want to show you links. If you need to go, that's all right, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do a link anyway because it's such an important and fundamental part of the web. So let me do a link here, and then that'll wrap it up for today. So let's say I want to link to, I want to include a link to this website, to this Wikipedia page about ice cream, right? It's delicious. Actually, you know what? Let's do a web page about Agnes Marshall because she seems important to the story for some reason. Oh, okay, cool. She patented an ice cream maker. That's cool. Good for her. I guess, yeah, we can all be thankful that she invented this. It looks like actually the same basic design as like the modern ones. We have an electric one, but it's, you know, same concept, I think. So let's see. So this is a URL right here where it says Wikipedia Agnes Marshall, blah, blah, blah. All right, cool. That's fine, Gene. See you Wednesday. If I double click on this URL, it actually shows me the whole thing. And that's the same thing I think in Safari. If you double click on the URL, it'll actually show you the full thing. Normally Safari hides the URL, and I find that so frustrating. But if you double click on it, you should see the whole thing. It should start with HTTP or HTTPS, and then it should go all the way, you know, to the end. So I'm gonna double click that and then right click it to copy. Right click copy is what I just did. You can't see the menu. Or you could do Control C, right? So Control C on my keyboard to copy that. That's the URL that I want people to visit when they click on a link in my web page. So let's say I want to make, I'll add a paragraph here. Agnes Marshall invented an ice cream machine. I guess that's what that is. I would normally say a lot more about Agnes Marshall. She seems important, but this is all I have for now. But I want to make her name a link to her Wikipedia page. And so to do that, I have to put a tag around her name. And this is a tag that's a little bit counterintuitive because it does not actually name the thing that it is. It is just the letter A. Opening it here, closing it here. You remember again, this is the opening because it's just the name of the tag, and then the closing has the forward slash at the end. Same thing though. The only difference is the forward slash. Now I need to add some attributes, and the attributes here follow the same syntactical pattern as the attributes in the image tag down here, but these are going to be different attributes for the link to make the link work. Attributes usually add functionality to an element. So in this case, the functionality that I want is I want this to be a link that someone can click on, and it's not yet. So if I save it right now, it's not done. Like, it's not a link. It's this phrase right here, Agnes Marshall, but there's nothing. I have not given Chrome any information about that other than that there's an A tag around it, but this A tag by itself does nothing. What I need to do is add an attribute that says what to do with this element. And that attribute is href, H-R-E-F, and then equal sign again, like our normal pattern, and then in quote marks, I need to put the value of the web page that I would like to direct people to. In this case, it's this full thing here, which I just Control V to paste. So href equals all that, and then the name, and then that ends it off right there. So yeah, that's all I added. So again, it's the attribute href which provides the target of this link, I guess you could say. So now when I refresh the page, I have a link here, Agnes Marshall. I can click on Agnes Marshall's name and it takes me to her Wikipedia page. So that's that. That's a link. There's more to links. Like, you can actually add another attribute called target, and then there's actually sort of a legacy reason for why this is the name, but it doesn't matter. But target equals underscore blank will make it a link that will open in a new tab. So if you click on that, now it opens in a new tab and keeps my ice cream page up here in this tab. Sometimes you want to do that, sometimes you might not want to, but that's how you do it whenever you do have that choice. I do like to do it for external links. I like to make them open in an extra in a new tab, but just for simplicity now, I'll leave it as it is. All right, so here's my home page. Oops. Here's my home page in its current form. And if you want to see how I did anything on this, you can actually see it, right? It's HTML, and HTML is has an open source code. So like if you right click on it, you can inspect, or you can inspect the element. I'm in Chrome, so I can type Control U to see it. I think on a Mac it's Command Shift U, if I remember correctly. And either case, this is what I wrote, and you can see it too. So if you want to see how I did something, you can look at the source code right there, and that's how I did it. That's all there is to it. Okay, so I think on Wednesday I will add some more things, especially, well, like I said here, I think on Wednesday I'll talk about style sheets, which will give us access to things like changing the font. But with that, I think you will probably have, with a few things that I can give you in style sheets, you'll probably have all you need in order to make a nice retro, nostalgic, ugly, old, whatever style you want web page that will look interesting. Okay, everyone, so thanks for watching, and if you have questions or want to chat, I'll stay online for a bit. Otherwise, I'm going to switch the stream over to the bird cam, although I have not seen any birds in the past few days, so I don't know what's going on with them. But hopefully they'll come back. I don't know, maybe they're migrating, and maybe other birds will migrate in and take their place. Like, usually this time of year, I think I usually see grackles, and they're kind of interesting birds. So maybe they'll check out the feeder. I haven't seen any recently. I did see a red-winged blackbird in the neighborhood yesterday, and they're pretty cool. I think it'd be awesome to see one of them on the feeder, but they don't usually visit feeders, so at least I've never seen one on any of our feeders. Usually you see them in like swampy areas. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap things up, but I'll stay online and I can chat on Discord if you have anything to ask about. Let me just switch over to the bird cam. See you later. Have a good day. Hey, I'm back. Actually, was just trying to figure something out for Amelia, and I thought it would just be easier for me to show you on the stream, Amelia, because it's already set up. And maybe other people would find this useful too. This is how to access some of the stuff I was showing you, the developer tools in Chrome. You can get to on Safari, but it takes a little bit more work. Not work, but a couple of steps. So let me show you. Hopefully you can see this. I can't actually see it very well, but like in OBS, but hopefully it looks all right. So here, I had to actually search in the help files to find it. So this is what I found. So let me kind of back out of this a little bit. So I was like looking at this, like how do I do this? So I looked in help for the developer tools, and I think the developer tools that are available in Safari are pretty similar to what's in Chrome. It's just you have to enable them. Let me see. You can't see my whole thing. Let me make that smaller. All right. So hopefully that works. Let me see. Make that a little bigger. Okay. Sorry. So yeah, that up there. That's what I'm trying to do. So the what I'm looking for are the developer tools. So I searched help, and come on, yeah, use the developer tools in Safari on a Mac. So here's what came up, and I don't know if that looks kind of small, but hopefully you can kind of see it. It does say that you have to go to the preferences and then advanced and then show develop menu into menu bar, which is a lot. But once it's there, I think it should be easy to access. So let's try it. So it says you go to Safari and then preferences. And then, yeah, so within this, you've got all these different Safari preferences, and you have to go over to the Advanced tab, which looks like a gear thing. And then you got some things here. So let me see. So actually, this is useful, right? So full site website address. This actually should correct the thing I was complaining about earlier, so that's good. Oh yeah, then down at the bottom it says show develop menu in menu bar. So let's add that. Cool. Okay, so let's see what difference that. Oh, that added this thing. Oh, nice. Okay, good. So I don't need this sidebar. So I'm looking at the UMW homepage right now, which doesn't matter, but it shows the whole URL there, which is great. And it's added this thing, develop, which is, oh, good. There's all kinds of great stuff here. So this is how you can add the. This is how you can find the source. You can go to develop and then show page source, and oh, there it is. Okay, yeah. So it just kind of popped up in this slightly different way, but it's down here. So that's something. That's not bad. So let's see if I can do that for my site. I guess it's on like a night theme or something. I don't really know. I hardly ever use Safari, so I don't know why it's set up with a dark background. But here's where I was a minute ago. Here's my home page that I've been making, the ice cream page. And yeah, you can see it pops up here. And this little developer thingy that popped up is very similar to the thing in Chrome, and you can do use different tabs here to learn different things. But the one in question that I'm looking at here is sources, which I got to by, again, going to enabling the develop thing and then going to the show page source option. So yeah, several steps, but it worked eventually there. And now that I have that, I don't think I have to go to the preferences anymore. I think it should just automatically have the develop menu with this stuff in it. So hopefully that works. And now that it's here, I mean, I think Safari is probably pretty close to on par with Chrome. I think there's only one slight issue I could think of that might pop up again, but this actually solves two of the main complaints I have about Chrome. So that's pretty good. All right, good. So looks like that worked for you too. So nice. Glad that worked. All right, well that's it then. I guess I will wrap this stream up for real. Thanks for sticking around, watching the last few minutes, and glad I was able to find that and that it worked for you. Okay, cool. So I'll see you all later. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Bye. Oh, what am I doing? All right, I'm gonna switch to the bird cam for a sec, and then I'll wrap it up. Then I will say goodbye.